Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're going to be jumping into another session of Epic 7 now today. Got another account overview for you guys. That's right, currently the RTA season is just about to end. We got about 9-10 hours left. I'm currently sitting at 2,800 points and about 350 ranks away from getting kicked out of Warlord. So I'm hoping that I end Warlord this season. So let's go over my account overview. I'm going to show you every single unit, their stats, and their gear that I use on them. And we're going to start off with Abigail. So Abigail here is a unit that I've used here and there, I think once or twice this season. She's really good for just immortality to the back row unit, and it's not really anything else. I have her built with some damage. She is pretty decently bulky. Moving on in the future, unfortunately her base health is low, but I would like to substitute defense for some more HP if possible. But yeah, otherwise I would try to get some imprints on her to make her easier to build. I have some laying around, just kind of scared that an ML Abigail will come out in the future. She's currently running Victorious Flag for the extra damage and the mitigation, and I have her on the EE that decreases defense for 2 turns, because her curse debuff on the opponent plus this defense break actually makes it so that you can, in some cases, knock out 2 units in one go. So it's pretty nice against squishier DPSs. Okay, moving on, we have Ed. Actually been using him a little bit, especially when Light Tenebria first came out. He's not my go-to anymore, honestly. I find that with Light Tenebria teams, it's so much easier to just go for full resist units. Units with 200 plus effect resistance, stack effect res imprints and such. So Ed kind of fell off a little bit for me there, but he was good for a little while. He's decent to Tenebria, especially when she uses her S2 and stuff. Just keep in mind he can get overwhelmed with debuffs. I prefer a speed build on Ed, just so he turn cycles his S2 much more quickly. I know destruction is the way to go if you want some more damage, but I feel like sustaining your barrier over time throughout the fight with your S1s is really strong, right? And it also allows you to potentially cut your opponent too when he uses his S2 and pushes up his combat readiness. Alright, next up we have Guard Captain Krau. This is my 270 speed Guard Captain Krau. He's been really useful against Fire Flan this season, and with Aram out now, you can actually use Guard Captain Krau to soul burn S3 nuke like a Flan first turn, and then you Aram reset him, and then he can nuke somebody else too, right? So it's really cool. I do want a bit of bulk on him, so I did decrease his defense. He used to have like 2,800 defense or something like that. Decrease his defense. I wanted a lot more bulk, and I wanted a lot more speed. He doesn't really need any other stats, which means he's pretty easy to build. You don't need him at like this fast. Most people have theirs 240 to 250 speed, which is a pretty healthy speed to be at. Thorn of the Blue Rose is fantastic for him because you get more souls at the start of the batch, and when you soul burn, you increase your damage dealt. So it's wonderful. It helps him out quite a bit in securing kills against Flan because she has evasion built into her kit. Next up is Holiday Euphine. So this is a unit that actually built to counter Fire Lidica, of all things. She's on speed and immunity. You definitely don't want to get debuffed first turn, right, with shenanigans. So yeah, your opponent has to hit you, and she has built-in 70% evasion as long as you're above 50% health. I'm using Guide to a Decision because when she gets hit and you are at 100% health here, you actually get to boost up your combat readiness by 16%, and at 272 speed she can cut like 300 something speed openers, which is really, really nice. So when a Fire Lidica S2s, if she misses Holiday Euphine, Euphine will cut. Then Euphine can S3, cleanse whatever debuffs might have landed on your other units, you push everybody up, and all that good stuff. Her passive also reduces the combat readiness pushback of your opponent's units by 50%, so she's decent at stopping Fire Lidica from pushing your unit all the way to the back line, right? If she does get that off. So Holly Euphine is pretty good for keeping your team's momentum, and she's kind of anti like Fire Lidica, at least in this current meta. Really happy that I did build her, and I did use her a few times to good results. Next up we have Hwayoung. I actually never really used her in RTA, but I do sometimes use her in Guild Wars and such. Switched her over from Ubir's Tooth to Sigurd's Scythe. It was actually kind of nice for sustaining her in longer fights, but her splash damage is pretty decent. I have her on Speed and Torrent, because she already does defense penetration with her S3, and as long as your opponent doesn't have Empyrean Ilynav on the other side, I think you're good to go. She's really good at fighting things like Boss of Runka. She's really strong into things like Mort and Young Senya teams, So I've been really enjoying using her with Aram especially. Aram has definitely rekindled my love for Hwayoung and her S3. It still does a lot of damage, and Sigurd helps keep her alive. She is on her EE where you gain more damage with your S3, because that's the main thing that you're going to be doing, right? So pretty decent stuff here. Alright, next we have Ravi. Fire Ravi is something I haven't really used her at all this season, but in certain cases where your opponent has anti-crit units, she could be pretty decent, or if you just need a really strong fire bruiser if your opponent's picking a bunch of earth units. The problem with her is that you can't use her into Mort because Mort stops counterattacks, and Ravi's built on counter here, at least for me. You can go Destruction, but I find counter to be just more consistent with keeping heals up. I'm on her plus 30 Sigurd Scythe for some healing, and her EE here, kind of weird that you can't preview it in the other screen, but she's on the S1 EE. Because I'm on counter, she's going to be doing her S1 a lot more than S3, and this just helps keep up more consistent forms of damage, right, throughout the fight. Next is a unit that I actually never really got to use because I rebuilt him at the end of the season. Switched him from kind of a speedy DPS build to a Destruction Torrent build, but if you notice, he actually has 140 effect resistance. I got kind of tired of, you guys probably saw in the videos, that he would always get hit by Celine, Earth Celine, and stunned whenever I used Sea Phantom Politis. Yeah, so I decided I got sick of that, so I built him on Resistance, and if you couple him up with ML Aria, if you put him on a team with Bastion of Hope, you can actually stack up your resist quite quickly. He can easily, in an ML Aria team, like get up to like around 200 effect resistance with a couple of imprints here and there, and he's really useful, honestly. The damage stayed the same. This was the amount of damage that I had before I swapped him over. All I did was reduce his speed by about 30 points and got a ton of effect resistance out of it. So very happy about that. Still managed to keep him on Torrent set. It did take quite a bit of gear to make this possible, but he is currently on Wind Rider as well for his increased attack and to be able to go into stealth. The great thing about being able to go into stealth with him is that he doesn't get focused down too easily, especially with single target units on the other side. They can't just proc his immortality, right? And the effect resistance also helps him keep his immortality up, which is a big boon. Especially in fights where you really just don't want him to get knocked down to immortality, get that stripped, and immediately die before he can take a turn. Right, up next is Tori. We got, yeah, a pretty decent Tori build here. I used to have her on Lifesteal, but seeing that she wasn't doing enough damage, swapped her over to this triple set, right? Torrent, Penetration, and Immunity. Immunity is mandatory on her, in my opinion, because her buffs that she starts with, or her buffs that she gets in any situation, cannot get stripped, right? So if you start with Immunity, you're guaranteed to never get debuffs on her. You're guaranteed to take your first turn. You can't get stunned, slept, anything of that sort. So she's very, very powerful in that regard. When you S3 and you Soulburn her S1, if you get the Cascade buff, you get to do it for free. You get your Torrent bonus and your Penetration bonus, and boy oh boy does she do a lot of damage. She's really good against tanky units. Tanky units do chip damage. You probably don't want to fight things that have 3F or Rocket Punch Gauntlet or MOAS on their side because they can easily burst through her very low health pool, but very strong at tank busting and fighting other bruisers that are out there. Got our Wind Rider, I got a plus 15-1 just laying around, so threw it on her for extra attack. And the stealth is okay too, because, you know, with her barrier that she gives herself with her S1, she actually gets pretty hard to knock out as stealth. So that's the reason I have it on her for right now. And of course, you can't forget Afternoon Soak Flan when you're talking about fire units this season. One of the most dominant DPSs honestly, of the last couple seasons here. I have her on a counter and immunity set. If you looked at the last video that I had for my account overview, she was on a lifesteal set, and I decided to switch it over. These are the exact same stats that I had on lifesteal. I just traded the ability to sustain myself with healing for the ability to counter my opponent, and I really love it. The fact that she tries to get focused down, but she's, you know, has 100% evasion, and with mitigation on your team, it's kind of hard to burst her down without, you know, extra hit chance units. When they're attacking her, she's actually soaking up a lot of damage for the team, and she has the ability to counter and punish the opponent with some big damage. It's pretty nice. Keep in mind, Dreamlike Holiday is here too, so I get an extra 30% crit damage, and if I attack when it's not my turn, I get to increase the attack of Flan for a turn. So this includes counterattacks. You can get the attack buff when you counterattack, and then on your first turn, you can go ahead and rip an S3, right, without even having to dual attack with anybody to get that attack bonus. So it's really, really convenient, and it actually comes in handy more than you think. Eligos, or otherwise known as Eligod here, really strong unit for fighting Afternoon Soak Flan, but in just aggressive teams in general. But I got him on speed and penetration here. These were all free. The weapon and the helmet were like free pieces of gear we can get through crafting events. That'll happen later in the year, so hopefully they'll be rolling that around again, and hopefully with more pieces this time. It's the 7th anniversary. They should treat us to some more stuff. But yeah, anyway, Eligos is a very powerful unit. I have him on 280 speed. I know some people have like 300 plus Eligoses, but I don't have the DPS gear for that. And he's mostly not going to be the opener himself. He's usually a unit that follows up when after an opener goes. So got him on his own artifact here, which helps him penetrate defense, but also gives him a good chance to increase combat readiness of everyone by 15%. Unfortunately, mine is not maxed. If it was, it'd be great, so I can actually use him as a bridge unit, but for right now, he's just good enough, right? The RNG is mostly on my side, and usually you'll get the push to keep up your damage. So I have him on his S2 EE, where he starts the first battle with 2 turns of stealth. It's really nice for keeping him alive. It means that you don't have to be running him on Guiding Light, and you can run him on damage artifacts, which is wonderful. Alright, next up we have Fire Lidica. This is my fastest unit in my entire roster here, 311 speed. I currently have her rocking Guiding Light, so she starts the battle with stealth, so you can't, you don't get scared of fighting in Zeos and such. He can't hit you with his S3. I don't have her on too much effectiveness. She has a little bit, enough to debuff most things out there, but usually if I really want her to debuff stuff, I will soul burn to guarantee that by ignoring effect resistance. But yeah, her average speed gear on the right side is quite high to achieve this stat line, and her EE here is going to be Inflicting Restrict to all enemies for 2 turns when using her S2. Really good for stopping Empyrean Ilynav or other units essentially from just cutting after Lidica goes and attacks everybody on the opponent's side. It's really, really strong. Yeah, and if you're able to hit units like Elena, it's a 50-50 shot. If you can land her debuffs, Elena can't do anything, right? Because you bind them and you restrict them, so they can't push up and they can't act when it's not their turn. Okay, next we have to have Robin here. Robin is currently rocking some PvE stuff, so this is Dux Noctis, which is an artifact that increases her damage, which is really nice, but she's on a speed and hit set, which is pretty decent. And looking at it, it looks like her speed is a little bit high, 250 something speed, but this is essentially my PvP Robin build. The only change I would make to this Robin if I were running her in PvP, which I sometimes do in Arena and occasionally in Guild Wars for fun, is I just run her on her own artifact, an Assassin's Pledge, which increases her effectiveness even further, and then you have a 75% chance to inflict another burn on the target for a turn. This works on AoEs as well, so you can stack the burns, you soul burn to your S3 to detonate everything, and then all is good. Alright, moving on, we got Summertime Iseria, guys. This is essentially my Pirate Captain Flan build, but with Summertime Iseria. I'm rocking her on her EE here that allows you to detonate the bombs at the end of the turn when you S1. So essentially, again, turning into Pirate Captain Flan. With Star of the Deep Sea here, you get a 100% chance to plant a bomb on the opponent for 2 turns. It's really great because artifacts inflict bomb and all their debuffs, even on miss. So you can actually use her into things like, Afternoon Soak Flan and other evasion type units, and she's pretty decent at that. With 200 effectiveness, I would like it to be higher, but 200 is usually good enough to debuff anything, right, guaranteed, as long as they have 200 or less effect resistance, and not many units have above 200 effect resistance, right? Very, very few that are out there, and usually if there are, you're probably not going to be picking Summertime Iseria into them. You're going to be picking them into your opponent who are more vulnerable to her kit. But very nice for evasion units. I like her for that. Good bridge unit as well. Pairs really well with Fire Lidica too, so she's pretty versatile. Speaking of versatility, we have Veronica here, who actually is on 282 speed. I have her on a little bit of damage, but you need 100% crit chance, that's the main thing. The damage doesn't really matter all too much. A bit of effectiveness goes a long way too for those effect res BBKs or Amikis and such that are running around, or effect res Jenuas like you saw with me earlier. Running her on Guiding Light right now to start the battle with stealth for a turn, so you don't have to worry about anything hitting her with single target attacks like Zio. She is a speed imprint for the team, but I don't have her imprints right now because I haven't been playing the story. I'll be catching up on that hopefully soon. I keep saying that, like, it's been over a year, right? Maybe a year and a half, and I keep saying it, but I haven't done it yet. Anyway, her stats are looking pretty decent here. You don't really need too many speed stats on her to reach 280 speed. You can divvy up these 21 and 20 speeds and scatter them here to the 12 and 15 speeds on the right side. You can divvy up the stats and you can see it's not really too hard to reach. If you're having a hard time getting crit rate on her, run a crit rate necklace instead of a crit damage necklace. She doesn't need the damage whatsoever. She's really good against Amiki, BBK, Jenua, any immortality unit on the other side. She's actually surprisingly good against Spirit Eye Celine too, so do keep that in mind. Yeah, planting bombs, bombing, and stunning Spirit Eye Celine is fantastic. Also, dispelling the immortality super easily on every unit on your opponent's side is invaluable. We have her on an EE here that increases combat readiness by an additional 30%. I just personally like this. I know some other people like other ones as well, like decreasing the combat readiness of the target with the S3. But the reason why I like the increased combat readiness by 30% is because it just guarantees the cut, right? And if you dispel BBK's immortality at the first turn, after a unit or two goes, she's going to be back up to the front line, Veronica is, and then you can dispel BBK's second immortality if you procced it. So that's one of the reasons why I have her on the extra combat readiness, is just for consistency. That's her main purpose, is to dispel immortalities for me. Alright, next up is Festive Eda. Never really used her, actually. Have not used her at all this season, I don't think. But she is going to be getting a buff, so hopefully she'll be a lot better and easier to use. But for right now, yeah, currently rocking this. Don't know how it's going to translate going into the buffs that are going to go live next week. But still have Taga Hell's Ancient Book for the Soul Burns for right now, and speed and hit set. I don't know if she needs to be faster or bulkier or what have you, but I think she's going to be pretty decent after her buffs. I'm going to be a little bit scared of her, I'll be honest, because ignoring resistance is always really scary. I think they changed her Soul Burn. Anyway, moving on, we got Fire Politis. This is the one that you guys have been seeing me use quite a bit this season, especially with Ahmed on the rise. Everyone's using Ahmed Cleaves, and Fire Politis is very strong into that. So I'm currently running a Degen Politis. I'm on Abyssal Crown over here. I'm on speed set with Resist build, and I'm rocking a decent amount of bulk with 200 speed. 200 speed is just to allow me to kind of cut my opponent sometimes. It's not very consistent, I'll be very honest with you. If your opponent's running like Abyssal Eupheme with Ahmed, you're not going to cut because she cuts your combat readiness gains in half. But with 200 resistance and at least 85 effectiveness, it's pretty nice. The 85 effectiveness essentially means you can debuff people with up to 100 resistance, right? 85% of the time, so it's the max chance that you can debuff somebody with, bar 15%. And 200 effect resistance means I can't get stunned or anything. They can't stop me, right? They can't stun me with their units and then go for the Ahmed stuff and prevent Politis from destroying the skill nullifiers. It's just super nice. And you guys know that Abyssal Crown has been putting in a lot of work against my opponents with stunning them. She is honestly well deserved with all this good gear. Alright, next up is Researcher Carrot. I think I tried to use her once or twice for fun for some burn shenanigans against my opponents, but she has not been performing all too well. I might need to change her build a little bit and give her a little bit more effectiveness, I think is probably the way to go. But currently rocking her on speed and immunity. She's on Etica Scepter for increased skill cooldowns by helping her turn cycle her S3. The more burns you get on your opponent, the better. Right, and she actually does quite a bit of damage. She's really good against units that chip you down, that don't carry a lot of actual damage themselves. So think of things like Knights and such, although Knights nowadays are all rocking 3F, Rocket Punch Gauntlet, or MOAS, and those get a little bit trickier. But units typically that don't deal a ton of damage to you, like think about Fallen Cecilias and such, they'll just kind of chip away and poke at you that don't really build damage. She's really good against, but just not in the current state of things. So she's good though as a free specialty change unit. She's decent against a lot of earth units that are out there. Speaking of Earth units, Roy Mustang, actually didn't really use him this season. I did use Sylvan Sage Vivian a lot more. Him and Sylvan Sage Vivian are kind of interchangeable to a degree, but I have him on Lifesteal and Torrent right here. Got some pretty decent gear on him actually, and he's rocking almost 200 speed, a good amount of damage right there, and the Torrent is decreasing his health, which actually helps a lot. His passive means that you can't take more than 51% of your max health as damage. Very similar to Tori, similar to Spirit Eye Celine and all these other strong DPS nukes out there. He's so weak to ice units that you just gotta be careful when you draft him if you do. Chatty is the best artifact for him just because you get a nice chunky barrier that prevents him from dying, right? And it can be activated once every 2 turns, and also one of the reasons why I stack more attack than I do crit damage on him, because the Chatty barrier scales proportionally to his attack stat. Alright, Aram, guys. This is my counter Aram, 240 speed with 100 effect resistance. Got a good amount of bulk on her. I've actually been really liking Shimadra's staff because I have a lot of units that like to self-heal, whether it's through Golden Rose or Sigurd's Scythe or built-in lifesteal, or like in their kit, lifesteal as a set, healing through other means, right? Aram heals on her S1, and this increases her heal from about 2,000 HP to about 3,000 HP, so it's really nice for sustaining my units. I'm not really sure how I feel about the 240 speed, if it's a bit too fast. It's actually weird to say. I feel like it's a little too fast for me with how I use my units and how I have my teams. So I might switch this around a little, maybe make her slower, because a lot of my units don't need the reset that early. I think I might prefer Aram to just stay alive, and if I can stay alive long enough, then I can go and go about, you know, resetting units on my second turn. I think I just have the better speed tune her, because she hasn't been doing too well for me in RTA, but I've been getting wrecked by her. More aggressive teams, I think, benefit from her rather than more defensive teams. But yeah, at least she's making a lot of Harseti defense teams so much easier to fight in Arena and Guild War. Next up we have Choux, going to the ice units now. So my Choux hasn't really changed at all. She's currently on Snow Crystal for the extra combat readiness gain. She already gives everyone crit resist buff, so getting some extra crit resist is not bad on her, honestly, and getting the extra combat readiness gain is also pretty nice for turn cycling her, because she is a little bit slow. She does gain combat readiness when she S1s though, so I have her on counter set here for some extra damage, and obviously an extra chance to go whoosh with a critical hit on her S1, a 40% chance to essentially get a free S2 hit in on your opponent, so that's the reason I have this EE. It's really nice. 10 speed as well, helps round out her kit very nicely, helps round out her stat spread very nicely, I should say. One of the stars of the end of the season is Inheritor Amiki, getting a lot of comments of people saying, hey, you're using Amiki way too much, but you know what, guys, if she works, she works. She actually last night got a bit of an upgrade here with her boot, so I got one that actually has a ton of resist now, 33 resistance, bumped her up from 185 to 192 resistance, still keeping the 5200 attack, which is really wonderful. She got a good amount of bulk here, because honestly you can't dodge bulk, and bulk is pretty good. You do want her to stay nice and healthy and alive. So yeah, this is currently what I'm running on her with a plus 30 Ubir's Tooth, finally max this thing out so that she can guarantee that she inflicts additional damage to my opponent. Super strong to aggressive cleave teams, super good into Ahmed cleaves as well, and that's been running around amok. So yeah, it's really, really wonderful to have something to counter it reliably. Next up is Rem. I haven't really used her all that much this season. I think I used her a couple times earlier in the season when I was still trying to figure things out. She was fun to use, honestly, but a bit too unreliable, especially with Mort that exists out there. But with counter set and immunity set, you're going to be looking pretty nice and bulky there. With Sigurd's Scythe as well for some additional healing. Honestly, I wish I can get some additional HP here, because a lot of units right now have a lot of true damage, chip damage, right, with 3F and all these other, like, skills, so I just want to keep her alive. People focus her down really fast. If you run her with squishier units on your side, and your squishy units, like, end up dying, let's say you have a really squishy triple Torrent, Arbiter Vildred, Rem will then get her full potential from that. But if nobody dies, Rem will not get her demon mode, which means she doesn't ignore effect resistance, which means she's kind of a sitting duck for a little bit, and that's really her main downside. Next up is Karina. I don't have a plus 30 MOAS, unfortunately, but Rocket Punch Gauntlet is currently on Bossa Runka, but this is what I'm currently rocking on her, some speed, some defense, and she's rocking a little bit of speed, right? Good amount of defense here, almost 2400 defense, good amount of HP, at least 18 to 20k health is a good amount to have her on. You just want to go for some big burst damage on your opponent. The problem is, because I don't have a plus 30 MOAS, I haven't really been using her. Otherwise, I would. She is really good into Afternoon Soak Flan in certain circumstances, but as of right now, I might actually switch her over to a counter build, and we'll see if that helps. But for right now, she's on speed. She was kind of used when I was using Albedo a couple seasons ago, but not as much anymore. Next up is Brieg. Got some PvE units sprinkled in here. So Brieg is actually decent because I did bring him into RTA a few times. He's on counter set and penetration set. Actually really good quality equipment on him. I would like less defense and more HP if I can help it, but it's going to be kind of hard on a counter set. You can probably pull it off with destruction much more easily, but counter set with 180 something speed is pretty nice. He gives himself the extra crit rate through his own buffs, so you don't need to worry about maxing out your crit rate. 85% is good enough, and I have him on mature sunglasses, so it increases his critical hit damage because mine's a little bit low. And when you are attacked, you do grant a flat 10.5% damage reduction. Makes him a good tank in PvE, but also makes him able to take a few hits in PvP too. Don't really have a specific team or unit I use him into. Sometimes I just bring him for fun, and he works out. He's a very solid unit, so for those of you guys starting on the game, definitely invest in your Brieg. He's going to be so useful in all sorts of content, even into the end game. Next up we have Krau. So my Krau's just really built as an absolute unit tank, 30k HP, 1700 defense. Went lower on the effect res because honestly, most of the times I'm bringing a cleanser in my fights anyway. Bastion of Pelucia lets him start with immunity though, so you don't have to worry about that. And it also gives that barrier and immunity to the backline unit, which is very nice. Helps him protect the DPSs, especially with 30k health. You're going to give 22% of that to your backline unit as a barrier. That's a good amount of HP that you're given there, right? So very solid. I have him on his EE that allows him to provoke 100% of the time. I know that some people want the increased speed when using S2. I don't really see the point of the S3. Normally when you S3, you already won the game. But the S1 here is kind of nice, just for consistent provokes, just protecting the team. He gives defense buff, he provokes the units into him, and you essentially just protect everybody. He's a shield, right? He's a meat shield until he rips his S3, in which case then you start nuking things for a lot of damage. Next up is Summer Break Charlotte. This is a build that honestly I'm just sharing because this is what I've always been running on her. I haven't used her this season at all. I tried this build out because I was trying to use her with Harsetti at some point, but Wings of Light and Shadow for the extra crit rate because mine's lacking a little, and I guess some extra damage, which is kind of nice, I guess. But Unity and Lifesteal set currently on her to get some extra health back, sustain herself. She's pretty bulky, 0 speed, right? I think I do like her slower, but I don't know what I'll be running on her once her buffs come out, whether I go full destruction set, no idea, but either way, she is essentially going to be a Afternoon Soak Flan in a sense, but ice element instead. So I'm really looking forward to testing her out after her buffs go live. Next up is Argent Wave's Hwayoung. I have her on Speed and Torrent, and she's also on her own artifact here, Summer Photogenic, which gives her extra attack, but also allows her to ignore damage share, which is wonderful. No Aureus and shenanigans and built-in mitigation effects to worry about, so you can hit anybody you want for max potential damage. I have her on a decent chunk of damage. Honestly, I think it can be more damage, and I want to squeeze out a little bit more speed. I think 245, 250 speed is ideal for using her with any opener, but if you're using her with just Sia Lilius, you can definitely sacrifice a lot more speed, and then just put everything into your attack and crit damage and crit rate, right? But I haven't really used her to good success. My teams aren't really adapted to be using offensive squishy glass cannons like Hwayoung here, so unfortunately don't really have much to say about her. Elvira is a unit I sometimes bring into Guild Wars and such, but honestly not a unit that I really use elsewhere, at least not in RTA. You can see she even has like an 85 ring, like I don't really have her optimized here at all, but she has a bit of effectiveness, a bit of resistance. With her artifact here, you get 30% effect res, so she's almost 300 effect res. You just want to keep your immortalities up. She's really good against Young Senya and other fighting spirit teams, but other than that, she really doesn't impact the game enough, not enough like Solitaria does, to warrant bringing her into RTA, which is unfortunate. If you really want to stop fighting spirit gains, use ML Politis instead. Alright, next up is Byblis. Use her mostly in PvE lately, but with the, the cutting of Nightmare Raid. I don't have a purpose for her anymore, but yeah, normally she's good into counter units like Abyssal Euphine, into Navy Captain Landies and such. She's good at stripping all buffs from the opponent, defense breaking them and everything, which is great. The only issue is that, well, more exists, so you can just stop counters in general. Here you have to get hit and then you retaliate as a punishment to your opponent. With Mort on your side, you just never get hit to begin with, so that's better. Yeah, so unfortunately Byblis has kind of fallen to the wayside. I used Iron Fan on her for PvE content, but if you were trying to use her in PvP, my build is actually a PvP build that I used in PvE. But what I would do is I'd probably run her on either her own artifact, right, Old Gardening Shears, which is decent because you can inflict random debuffs, or you can run her on like Elegiac Candle, which allows you to decrease defense, right, as an extra chance. But I would probably recommend her own artifact here because it's pretty good and synergizes with her kit. Next up, speaking of retaliating against your opponent, Seaside Bellona, guys. A lot of you have been asking for my build. We have a limited summer banner coming up, and a lot of you guys have those event bookmarks that you want to use. If you don't have Seaside Bellona, she is still so good as a unit. I want her 20k health really bad, but I can't manage it right now. Currently, she's at 4,000 attack, a good amount of bulk here, and 158 effect resistance, right? And you're probably wondering, well, as a, you know, Rengar's Special Drink, we get the attack stat. Why are you not running crit damage for just more damage, right? Why are you running resistance? Because I'm currently on a double resistant immunity build. Well, the reason I have immunity is because things can have more than 150 effectiveness, and I don't want to get Silverblade Armament at turn 1 if I can help it. And I know I do have a Dispel debuff when using the S2 here. That's for the occasional debuff that does get through the resistance, but for the most part, if you're not stunned, if you're not slept, which is the main ways people stop Seaside Bellona from attacking with her S2, as long as you're not stunned or slept or anything of that sort, you will be fine, right? You will be able to smack your opponent for a lot of damage. They can't control them, they can't provoke her, they're not going to be able to attack down her, silence her, random unbuffables and such from DPS units just hitting her here and there, no random defense breaks. Those are things you really want to avoid, and Seaside Bellona helps you do that with a bit of resistance, and she's really good against Afternoon Soak Flan. I cannot stress how good she is with Rengar's Special Drink for that extra additional damage. How good she is into evasion units. She's very powerful. Afternoon Soak Flan, when she S1s on her turn, it's an AoE, hits all 4 of your units, it's going to stack up your focus really fast. Bellona also has a lot of built-in mitigation, so she's actually a really great candidate into these fire units that are really popular. You can use her into Tori as well. A lot of A-Ros Tori players out there still running around. Tori's usually running around with some barrier units, so the additional damage with Rengar's Drink is really nice for chipping her down really easily. Okay, next up is Aria. Actually switched some of the things around, or artifact mainly. Switched it over to Proof of Valor, had her on, I believe it's Fairy Tale for a Nightmare for extra damage. Mine's not a damage build, I might switch mine over to more damage-oriented build, but I really like the effect res on her. I might be able to drop it a little bit though, just seeing that so many of my units have effect res imprints and other ways to help the team with effect res that I think I can give a little bit up here in exchange for a bit more damage output. But currently, this is the stats that I'm currently running, Lifesteal and Resistance. I think if I switched her over to Destruction, it could be better if I'm just trying to nuke my opponent. I really like Lifesteal, though, for the Sustain, so I don't think I'm going to really change that. Her EE is the one that grants 1 focus at the start of the first battle, which is really nice. When you S3, you get 3 focus, so you only need to get hit 1 time instead of 2 to get your first S2 off, your first passive proc off, which is wonderful. Okay, next up is Diene. I actually should have used her a lot more, but I fell in love with DJB once again this season. But I built this Diene to actually counter like Sea Phantom Politis, like Emma Politis and such. With Soul Constellation, I gained 30 effect resistance, so Diene's sitting about 220 effect res, which is really nice. And I have the increased combat readiness of all allies using the S2, so that's what her EE is. I'm currently running her on Resist and Speed set. I know some of the pieces could be a little bit better, honestly. But it's the best I can do for now. The 270 speed is really nice because with Soul Constellation you do gain 12% combat readiness when your opponent uses a non-attack skill. If your opponent's Emma Politis can't push you back, then you're going to push up, you're going to cut them. Normally, Sea Phantom Politis averages maybe like 290, 300 speed. So you should be able to cut with 12% combat readiness at 270 speed. And by cutting with Soul Constellation, you can then cleanse and push up your team with your S2. That's why I got that EE there. And you're good to go, right? Or sorry, she doesn't cleanse with her S2 anymore. She cleanses with the S3. Either way, she'll get some cleansing going. You'll get the S2, you get the barrier, you get the attack buff. You get to set up after your opponent opens up, but before they can follow up with their units. So Diene, I really need to use her more. Maybe in the preseason I'll be testing her out more extensively. Elena, very strong unit actually, into Fire Lidica. I kind of talked about her when I talked about my Fire Lidica, but as long as you're avoiding your opponent's debuffs here, you're good to go. 250 effect res, so even if my opponent hits me with a Fire Lidica, I'm praying that this is enough effect res to not get debuffed. But Elena's really strong against these AoE units. Abyssal Euphion's also very popular right now. You can buy some time against her and other AoE units with Elena here. Good cleanser, one of the best cleansers in the game, especially with her S1, cleansing debuffs off of 2 units on your team, 1 debuff off of each unit. I'm running her on Doctor's Back for additional cleansing and some extra healing as well, right, with her S2 proc. So if your opponent is S2ing you with Fire Lidica, normally Elena's S2 cleanses a debuff. Now Doctor's Back cleanses an additional debuff, so you can cleanse both of Fire Lidica's debuffs off of your team, and you're good to go. Her EE is actually currently the Dispel a debuff from all allies when using Consecrated Ground. This is the S3, so this is, this is the S2, that's right here. So that's cleansing with the S2, and then the Doctor's Bag cleanses an additional debuff. The S3 right now also cleanses an additional debuff, which is really good. So again, one of the best cleansers in the game, and she puts invincibility and a resist buff onto your team. The only reason why I like DJB a bit more is because DJB can push himself up without getting hit by an AoE attack. Normally, when you have Elena, people are going to avoid their AoEs, and 245 speed is not fast enough to cut anything. Alright, next up we got Fene, another PvE unit that's built on PvP. We got Destruction and Crit Rate here, and she's actually on decent stats. She's missing some crit rate, but that's because we have Proof of Love, which gives us 13.6% crit rate, bringing her up to a total of 100% crit, and she can inflict up to 10% injuries with every attack, guys. S1 into an extra attack, that's 20% injuries right off the bat, so we have really good damage right here. Once you get her down low enough with injuries, she's a decent counter into injury units on your opponent's side, but once she gets injury down herself, she will inflict self-injuries with her S3. She'll start scaling so much with damage, it's incredible. So yeah, really like her. Been using her here and there, but she's essentially just a really good sustain unit. The only thing she's lacking is cleansing in her kit, so do keep that in mind. You're going to need to bring a cleanser of some sort along with her. Next up, speaking of cleansing, we got Frida. My Frida is definitely not an aggressive Frida, it's more of a Guild War Frida. I use her into like Bellion teams and such here, but 250 something speed essentially allows me to go if my opponent's playing a tank down team. They're not going to be fast enough to go first, and then I get to soul burn for free, right? Frontline unit gets to soul burn, Frida gets to soul burn, all good stuff. 200 effect res on her here, running Soul Constellation as well, so essentially 230 effect resistance, and I get extra combat readiness. So if my opponent opens up again, let's say ML Politis S3s, right? Frida can then push up, and then we get to go and take our turn. Which is nice, but I should probably increase her speed, maybe drop her resistance just a tiny bit. I'm not really sure on that, though. Alright, we got Alencia. Alencia's fantastic. Injury HP set right here, 190 speed. Actually a really decent unit. Kind of reminds me of Fene, but a little less team support and a little bit more selfish. She does give the team like a defense buff and such with her S3, so she's actually not terrible as a support unit, but the damage she throws out is pretty nice, especially with Prayer of Solitude giving her extra health when you're in combat, and you get an additional 15% damage when you do your extra attack. It is very, very nice. I'm running her on a EE here for healing, so I like my units to self-sustain, any form of healing, any form of lifesteal. It's just my preferred playstyle. I find it so fun. But yeah, I can't help but go for this. An EE that people like to do is decreasing combat readiness with the S3 though. You might want to consider building effectiveness a little bit if you do that. you're going to be hitting, like, normally you're fighting very tanky defensive units, right? Like knights and such, soul weavers, who are rocking some effect res, so that's the reason I don't go for that, and I prefer going for the healing to help out sustain those types of units. Trample damage is also not terrible if you're taking a lot of turns. Maybe you have a faster Alencia, speed Alencia, or something like that. But I have injury, because if I want to bring her, I'm going to injury down my opponent as soon as possible. Talking about as soon as possible, we have a Runka. If you want to nuke down a unit as soon as possible, don't pick a Runka, because this 7,100 attack Runka right here, with her EE that increases combat readiness whenever you use S3, along with her Little Queen's Huge Crown, which is almost maxed, which increases damage by essentially 30% if the opponent has a barrier, right? And with a Runka here, penetrating defense by 70%, and increasing damage dealt when they have a barrier. Yeah, this still can't kill any unit with a barrier, so unfortunately, you can check out the stats. It's not bad. I got a bit of bulk on her. Could I get more attack? Sure, I've seen some 8,000 attack Arunkas out there. But is it worth it? Is it still going to kill? Unfortunately not. She really needs a buff. She has a great design though, so wasted potential unfortunately. Just really want them to buff her so that she like 100% defense pens and like essentially guarantees one-shots against barrier units. That would be great. Please do that, Smilegate. Thanks. Next up, we have a tech that I copied from the Epic 7 World Championships, so this is the Immortal Wukong. The Immortal Wukong here is running his own artifact with extra crit rate, and you get some extra crit hit resistance. So that's the reason why I'm running 80% crit rate, is because I get the rest of it from his artifact. He's running his EE, which gives him crit rate, which is wonderful, but also his passive increases the crit resistance and penetration resistance by an additional 10%, which is massive. Running him on Destruction and HP, honestly, if you're going for a build like this, you don't need damage at all. No crit rate, no crit damage is all fine. He's running as much HP as possible, essentially. So the HP I got here is almost 31k health. He has more HP than my Fallen Cecilia, and the reason for this is because he has penetration resistance and anti-crit. If my opponent uses Straze, the theory is that Straze will try to defense penetrate the Wukong because he has the highest HP on the team, but because he's resisting it, he doesn't get one shot. It works. He doesn't get one shot. The issue is if your opponent is Ahmed cleaving you with Straze, you're probably still going to die, as in the rest of your team is still going to die. And then Wukong just can't do anything by himself because he's too slow. So it still needs some testing. I need to find when to use him, when to draft him, essentially. I just don't think you can draft him into an Ahmed team. Ahmed with the greater attack buff, crit damage buff on Straze is way too much for even this Wukong to handle. So I'm going to keep him on this build. I think it's a cool tech, it's a cool strategy, but unfortunately I don't think it works against Ahmed. Alright, next up we got Laya. She hasn't really changed in her build here, but we have her on Sweet Miracle for the extra health and, of course, the cleansing, so she can't be stunned or slept. Gonna be okay moving forward, because we're starting to see a lot more control units start popping up. You know, Sage Ball is about to get a buff too, so Laya could be a decent option in a Bruiser v Bruiser fight. We have her on a speed and HP set here, 270 speed, a good amount of bulk. I think at 37,000 HP here with Sweet Miracle, I think she pretty much is just under 30k actually when she's in combat, because 10% of this is 2,700 plus the 27,000 here is going to be about, you know, we're going to plus the 200 here, it's going to be about 29,000 something. We're very close to 30k. Alright, anyway, moving on, we got this troll Rimuru. I just kind of threw some gear on him, but because he's geared, I might as well show him to you guys. It's a speed resist Rimuru. 222 resistance here, no damage. We got some bulk on him, 200 speed, good enough for him to cut. And he's on Strat Gauntlet, so another 60% resistance. This is a 282 resist Rimuru. The reason I haven't built is because if your opponent goes for a single damage unit, let's say Midnight God Lilius, let's say a Tori, you can just nuke them and kill their single DPS, and then you win. So that's kind of cool. Has that situation ever popped up? No, not really. It's getting harder and harder to be able to use him like that into a single DPS team, because not many people are running single DPS teams. A lot of people are running bruisers and stuff, a lot of tanks, a lot of knights can deal damage. Empyrean Ilynav, Dragon Bride Seaside, right? Those are a lot of units that can deal damage as well as help mitigate stuff for the team. So it's not just those days where a single Midnight God Lilius is going to solo you. It's going to be Midnight God Lilius plus 3 other units absolutely beating you down. So unfortunately, he saw zero use this season. Next up we have Albedo though, also pretty much saw like no use this season, but she's on the same build I had her on when I was using her with DDR and a Tywin in that one season. So earlier in the year, or last year it was, 220 speed, 70 effectiveness is good enough to debuff most things. Most things out there are running like 80 to 100 effect res, right? So you'll be able to debuff most things and defense break them with your S3. She's rocking 3F as her own artifact for some extra damage dealt proportional to her max health. That's why I have her on 30k health here. She's a really strong anti-cleave unit because she just reduces crit damage that your team takes. The issue with that is a lot of units out there right now don't deal crit damage. A lot of units don't have to crit anymore to kill your team, so you do have to watch out for that. A lot of things can burst you down, like Rinnock gets so much free damage onto your team without ever critting once, right? So do keep an eye out for that. And also Mort counters her S2 quite easily. Right, next up we have Charles. My Resist Charles here on Destruction and Resistance. He's actually currently rocking Elbrus Ritual Sword for an extra 20% chance to counter whenever an ally is attacked, which is wonderful. You love to see it. His buff made it so that you don't want his buffs stripped. So when he got buffed here, his S3, when you use it, you gain attack, defense, and a counter buff. You don't want that counter buff stripped. When he has 3 or more buffs on him, he'll guarantee to go from an S1 into an S2. No more RNG there, essentially. So by keeping the effect res high, you can keep your buffs up. Whenever he's hit, he's going to guarantee to S1, S2 your opponent, and you're going to deal a ton of damage. So much so that, yeah, I actually lowered his attack stat and was able to give him more bulk, right? While keeping a decent amount of speed. He's currently on his S3 EE, which I prefer, which dispels all debuffs from himself before he uses S3. Because there's a lot of openers out there and such that can still debuff him. 130 effect res is mostly so no random DPS unit, no random Aram with 30% effectiveness is going to be able to poke him with an S1 and stun him, right? No random things like that. So when you take those out of the picture, if your opponent opens and let's say uses New Moon Luna, she seals, unbuffables, all that stuff, you want to be able to cleanse the unbuffable from your Charles with your S3 before you get all of your attack, defense, and counter buffs, right? It makes it a bit more self-sufficient. You're not fully reliant on a cleanser on your side. Next up is Mort. Speaking of counters, Mort says no to counters, but I did re-gear mine. He went from 24k health to 27, almost 28k health, right? He's currently on his EE here that extends the duration of his S2 buffs for a turn, which is really nice. You get more speed for longer, and he gives rage too with his S3, so yeah, rage buff plus speed buff means that you're zooming. Holy Sacrifice is here just so when he dies, he doesn't actually die and your opponent still can't counter. And we have him on 180 speed, a little bit of damage here, dropped his crit damage a little bit to boost up his health. You want his health as high as possible so that you can ignore effect res when you use your S3. That's the main goal with him. Most tanks are going to outclass him anyway in terms of health, but if you have something like a young Senya boosting him up with her artifact, then he is going to be okay. In terms of his HP. He's close enough that he can pretty much debuff most things. At least you're guaranteed to debuff all Soul Weavers and such out there. No Soul Weaver is really this tanky, so it's good for that. You can debuff Infinite Horizon Acades and DJB and other high resistance units. He's been okay. I really don't like fighting him. I prefer him banned, honestly, because I've been using Amiki, BBK, Bellion, all these counter units, and Mort just kind of stops that from happening, so I can't let that happen. Speaking of not letting things happen, Senya kind of doesn't let your opponent take a turn. If you can get a turn off with her, it's kind of hard, honestly. I built her for fun. I love Spice and Wolf. It's my favorite manga, anime, light novel series of all time. I actually have the full collection in my room right now. But yeah, Senya here rocking the Spice and Wolf outfit, the holo outfit, is fantastic. Got her on Spear of a New Dawn, which gives me the chance to inflict extra damage. Everything has additional damage right now. FCC is such a godsend. We have, what is it called? Her EE here that recovers health. Again, like I mentioned with the Lencia that we talked about earlier, I love healing effects, I love sustain, but speed and hit set here essentially makes it so I'm going to be rocking almost 160 effectiveness. She's going to be very strong at just controlling the opponent with S3s for the provokes. If you soulburn her S3, you reduce the cooldowns, you're going to keep it up for much longer. If you can provoke them and they attack you and you have a counter buff that she gives with her S3, you're going to be able to keep countering them and poking them down while sustaining your health, while provoking them again, and you're essentially provoke locking your opponent. That's essentially what I'm going for here. She doesn't work into high effect res units. She doesn't work to evasion units. Yeah, so you gotta watch out for that. But otherwise, she's okay. She's fun sometimes, but definitely not a very consistent unit because of 15%. This is my Silvertide Christy. I thought about using her in RTA lately, but I don't think I really need to swoop down to this level to get resistance on my team. I have her on Noble Oath for right now because I don't really have anything else to put on her. Aureus could be okay, Adamant Shield, Bastion of Prelucia is all good, but have her on a bit of HP, almost 300 resistance. I don't really use her. I do use her sometimes though in Guild Wars. You protect a already high resist unit in the back line, and then you essentially just sit there and then never die. So it's wonderful. I like it. You can also pair her with things like Spirit Eye Celine and such, and you know, you can make your immortality units essentially not have immortality stripped. So it's pretty cool. Alright, next up we got Blooming Lidica. I actually did re-gear her, but I haven't ever taken her out for a spin. Almost 270 speed, but I think 269 is very fitting for her here. She's currently running Seductive Flower, which increases our effectiveness by even more. She's only rocking 94 effectiveness, but with this it's a little over 100%, almost 120%. It's good enough for all intents and purposes. And what we're going to do is decrease combat readiness of the target by 15%. It's pretty nice for pushing them back. The EE that I'm actually running on her is the one that restricts all enemies. Like I mentioned with Fire Lidica, you kind of don't want your opponent pushing up, like Empyrean Ilynav, like your Elenas and all that other stuff. If you can restrict your opponent, they can't move, and then you're going to be golden. I guess Elena's a bad example. She can cleanse restrict, but even then, you don't want your Bossarukas on the other side, all these people with combat readiness increase effects to push up when you attack them. So, pretty solid unit. I think I should use her more as a bridge unit, but I just don't play aggressively enough this season for me to really use her. I use her a lot in Guild Wars though. She's super strong with Rinnock and with, what's her face? Dragon King Sharoon, right? Both those three as a combo are super, super fun. Alright, next up we got Celine. I realized my Celine wasn't plus 15, so I used my plus 15 selector, fully decked out selector to get this Celine, and I threw my old Celine into this one. So now she's actually plus 15, as you can see here, and she's double S imprint, almost max imprint. Currently have her on her own artifact, Secret Art Storm Sword, for, you know, best in slot for extra combat readiness, the attack buff. It's wonderful, synergizes so well with her kit. And then I still have her on the random attack EE, where you randomly attack and you can stun a target for 1 turn. Still, I think the best to not be baited. Sometimes it's really easy to bait the opponent. Let's say you're trying to attack your opponent, let's say they use a non-attack skill. If your opponent's highest attack unit is Amiki or BBK, you just wasted your Celine, you're never gonna kill them. They have immortality, and now you're screwed, right? Whereas you probably could have burst down a tank, burst down a random support unit otherwise. But these are her stats. I like my Celine tanky. I know with this speed, she's not going to cut, even with her passive and Storm Sword together. But even then, I love the sustainability with this bulk. People try to take many turns to kill her, and she's just there. If you can't kill her, you can't use non-attack skills. So it's either use non-attack skills or take forever killing her. And both are good for me, right? So Celine is a pretty good win rate for me. Destruction set, penetration set, helps with more damage. Nothing more to say. Next up, we have Minagala Lilius, who I actually did use, I think, in 1 match? I don't remember. I think so. I think I used her in like 1 match this season. But Dark Bloodkeeper is what I like on her. Actually, you can use Wind Rider and stuff, but you still get the extra attack with this. It's just that when she uses her S2, you actually get a huge barrier, which is really nice. Kind of like a pseudo-chatty, in a sense, like the chatty for mages, like we saw in Roy. So she becomes really hard to kill. She has the same passive as Tori, where you can't... Or, no, it's not a passive, it's a damage limit buff. It's similar. You can't take more than 35% of your max health as damage, so she's able to survive really well with that barrier there, especially in one-on-one situations, where if you're down to, like, you know, just your Gala and just your opponent, she actually does really well with this artifact to survive. We're currently running her on Speed and Torrent. I might in the future swap her over to a Resist build. I might have her a lot slower and put on Resist set, just because I don't like her buffs getting stripped. Alright, moving on here, we got Rinnock, my second fastest unit in my account, 310 speed, just 1 shy from my Fire Lidica. But we're currently running her on Discreet Hands, her own artifact here. We get the increased attack, you got the increased combat readiness, it's all good stuff, it's wonderful, right? And we end up getting just an offset piece here with a ton of speed, 22 and 19 speed here, and we also got just speed set going on for us. So 310 speed is wonderful. Use her with Dragon King Sharoon. I use her with Blooming Lidica. I ban her all the time in RTA, so honestly this gear is kind of wasted on her. Could put this on anybody else and make more use of it. But because I use her so much outside of RTA, it's still worth keeping the gear on her. Next up is Rowana. I actually ended up imprinting her. She's been imprinted, but I ended up changing some of her gear here. Been using her a lot in PvE challenge content. So currently she's on Stella Harpa. She's been really good for me in the Trial of Constellations, right? That terrible new mode that's out that replaced Nightmare Raid. I hate it, but hey, Rowana makes things a little bit more bearable. Currently have her on a lot more HP than I used to. She only had like 2,000 health before, but now she's able to heal everyone to max health all the time. I used to have so much more resistance on her, but in PvE, it doesn't matter. But also with Stella Harpa, even if you bring her to PvP, the stat line is more than enough. You just slap a bunch of HP sets on her, guys, and you're good to go. So, very happy with how she turned out with this re-gear. And hopefully I can use her more in the future, especially with Lionheart getting a buff. Rowana with Lionheart together is kinda scary. Okay, we have Schneel following up here with a build that I honestly haven't really tweaked with in a while. No one really uses DDR anymore, so I kind of just been taking pieces from my Schneel and not really giving him much thought in return. Like, these boots are terrible, look at that. It has crit rate and crit damage on them, but if I replace the boots, I think his build is okay, is good enough. I would like him maybe a little bit faster to turn cycle, but otherwise Water's Origin is useful for helping him stay alive because he tends to get focused down, especially if you do bring him into a DDR or any other unit that inflicts poison. So this is a great way to keep him alive, push him up in combat readiness, turn cycle him, and get his cooldowns on his S3 down so that you can keep nuking your opponent for a ton of damage. But if there's no DDR, his value diminishes greatly, especially because they're not releasing units with more poison and venom in the past several months. Next up is Sharoon. I think Sharoon is going to be very strong, especially with like all the buffs that are floating around nowadays. Like, she's going to be, I think in my opinion, like, she's a pretty good dark horse unit, right? You can use her to cycle combat readiness. She's actually going to be really good at cycling combat readiness for your ally units now. Instead of buffing them with a random buff, she's going to be pushing the highest attack unit with more combat readiness. And I think that's wonderful. She's on Potion Vial because she doesn't have any cleansing in her kit, and I really don't like being debuffed. So Potion Vial does help her. With how much she turn cycles, Potion Vial does help cleanse the team quite quickly. Even if you have a couple debuffs stacked on your side, it's pretty nice. She's on Counter Set and Hit Set. We're running 230 speed, 100 effectiveness. It's good enough. If you want more effectiveness, you can pair her up with other units like Aram and such, or run a speed set. Run a speed set and don't go counter like me. I go counter because they're making her S1 a lot more consistent now. It's gonna be amazing, right? And being able to lock down your opponent with this S1 is huge, increasing their skill cooldowns by a turn. So the counter set is more of a win more cheese type of strategy, but hey, if it works, it works. Next up is Young Senya. I kind of like this build, it's okay. I actually honestly just clicked the equip all and it gave me this, but she's currently on Proof of Friendship, which helps a lot in Guild Wars and such. She's on some defense teams of mine too, with Mort and such, but pairing her up sometimes in RTA is okay. I just don't really find her that useful. You're locked into Earth units, you can't use her with Bossarunka, because whatever Earth unit you're running with her has to be in the front line, and Bossarunka needs to be in the front line, and she's not an Earth unit. It's just crazy. But anyway, you don't need a lot of speed on her. Typically I bring her into Harseti teams, and with Proof of Friendship you actually get a lot more health than what you're seeing right now. So yeah, it's not bad. And also, yeah, just speed HP set is all you really need. Some people run triple HP set, some people run base speed Senya because they only use her into Harseti. I try to use her outside of Harseti teams too occasionally, on like Guild War offense teams. So having a little bit of speed does help in turn cycling in those situations. Next up is Lionheart Cermia. This is going to be absolutely obsolete by the time you get to rebuild Lionheart for her buffs, because she is getting a whole star sign change. So ideally though, I'm going to be aiming for like the same stats that you see here. She's going to be on Durandal. I like her on Durandal. Super nice with her buffs. She's going to push up 50% combat readiness with her passive now, plus the Durandal pushing up about like 16% more. So you're going to be pushing up 66% combat readiness. That's 2/3 of the combat readiness bar, right? You just push up for free when they extra attack or dual attack or counter attack. So yeah, Lionheart is going to be amazing. I can't wait to rebuild mine. Her EE she's getting is for crit rate too, so I might be able to sacrifice the crit set and slap her on something like a torrent set. If I can slap torrent set on her, I think she'll slap. And she'll slap really hard too. Okay, Little Queen Charlotte, a unit that honestly needs a buff. She kind of sucks. So I haven't changed her build in like over a year, maybe 2 years. She's on Hell Cutter for the extra crit rate and the extra attack. She's mostly for nuking dark units, but dark units right now are very scary. So yeah, there's also not too many dark units. I think it's still more so light units in the meta right now. So yeah, without dark units out there, Little Queen Charlotte's usage just plummets. And Savior Aiden being free and essentially being a bit better than Little Queen Charlotte is kind of sad. But this is her build regardless. Speed and immunity. I should honestly probably switch over to like a destruction build or something. That could be kind of cool. Next up is a Tywin. We got him as a protection set knight on HP set. This is him with his own self-imprint. 33k health, guys, on protection set. And he's currently rocking Aureus. He is just going to sit there, mitigate damage, protect your team. And when the time comes for him to take his turn, he's relatively slow, but he's going to rip an S3, stun everything on the other side, and hopefully you'll be able to cut through everything and just win. I could build him a bit faster and synergize him with ML Politis, but because I don't play offensively, I think the tankier protection set build works a little bit better. You could run him on some effectiveness. I don't, because none of my pieces have effectiveness on it. But yeah, that's an option. You can drop his bulk by a little bit, maybe some defense and some HP. It's better nowadays to have more HP than more defense. So drop some defense or something, get some effectiveness. Could work out better in the long run. Alright, next up we have Rebellion. You guys have been seeing me use her quite a bit this season. She's on 3F here for some extra damage. She attacks with AoE attacks. This is massive. You see me stop cleaves, you see me fight Homage, you see me break skill nulls, you see me stop souls with her. She is absolutely amazing. 200 effect resistance, 27,000 HP, 1600 defense, and this is with a without her HP imprint. This is with effect res imprint for the team. With her own self imprint, she's at 28k health. Counter and immunity set, you definitely want immunity on her, even with this resistance, because some units, like Silverblade Armintha, will be able to S3 and, like, stun you, because they have really high effectiveness. But the thing with units like Silverblade Armintha is they can't strip your buffs. So if the opener doesn't have enough effectiveness to strip you, and they can't Soulburn Ignore Res, because Rebellion's passive, then Silverblade Armintha and follow-up units also can't strip you. So, and they can't debuff you, too, so you're good. Bellion's fantastic into those aggressive teams, especially Harsetti teams. I like her into Harsetti because I'm base speed anyway. It gives me a really good turn cycling when Harsetti's on the field because she nullifies all speed stats. Everyone moves at the same rate. Alright, next up, Bossa I still want to change her build a little bit. I don't know if I want to keep rocking the Rocket Punch Gauntlet. It's been so good to me, but I might drop her down to like 2,800 defense, maybe something even less, 2,400 defense, and just run her on like 30k health. Right? Just run her on more HP so that she's such a nuisance, she can't die, she sits there, probably still gonna be on counter set and stuff like that, and rocking a bunch of resistance too. The more resistance I have, the more resist units I have, the better the synergy with my account. If you, like I mentioned several years ago, for those of you guys who even remember this, if you're building a resist unit, they're not going to work as well as a standalone unit. They probably work better in a resist team. And by resist team, I mean you got to have enough of your roster dedicated to resist builds to really make it worthwhile. That's how you see me fight all these cleave teams with Amiki, with BBK, with ML Aria, with DJB, and all these high resist units sitting around with the Rebellion that you saw earlier. It really pays off. Alright, Dragon Bride Senya is the next unit here. She's actually pretty decent. I've been using her a couple times. Really good with BBK, Amiki, other squishy units, especially ones that don't die. So Dragon Bride Senya on 170 something speed. Some people build base speed with 40k health. I think it's a good compromise to get like some speed, but also have like 37, 38k health. She's on Bastion of Perlucia, which is fantastic for the immunity and the barrier. Keep in mind the backline unit gets 22.5% barrier. 22.5% of 37,000 is huge, okay? The backline unit is going to be very well protected. She's really strong with Spirit Eye Celine as well. One of the main units I tried to pair her up with. But yeah, otherwise I haven't really used her all too much because Empyrean Ilynav does exist. So Empyrean Ilynav stopping defense penetration kind of steers me away from Dragonbride Senya and the next unit, which is Last Rider Krau. But she's on Rise of a Monarch, which gives barriers to everyone at the end of their turn. Fantastic artifact. Just keep in mind, if your opponent has a DJB, he can barrier invert you, and it sucks. But Destruction set, Crit set, have her on damage, honestly. She's pretty bulky on damage. 27k health with her own imprint here. Sometimes I'll give team effect res imprints for stacking effect res against certain units, against certain teams, to try to get my 200 effect res units up to more like 220, 230, 250 effect res, right? Depending on if I have ML Aria or Bastion of Hope or stuff on my team as well. Okay, so next up is Last Rider Krau, also on Bastion of Perlucia. You guys see a pattern here? All these knights are protecting people with immunity. It's wonderful. This gives immunity to myself because I'm not running immunity set on him, and it gives a barrier, 28.5% to the backline unit. It would be, I think, 30% if it's maxed out, but I haven't maxed it out yet. This is his build. He's on lifesteal and HP set, almost 200 speed. I decided to opt to not go for effect res or anything. It didn't matter because I'm already running immunity with his artifact, and he gives immunity to the team too. So if they're focusing down LRK, he's kind of doing his job. It lets everyone else survive. But 30k health, almost 1700 defense, 200 speed on lifesteal means he's healing up a lot every time he S3s. And if you pair him up with Aram, my Aram is on Shamadra staff, he's going to be healing even more. So it's going to be really hard to kill him. They'll try to burst him down. He's going to rip an S3, heal most of it back up, if not all of it, and then rinse and repeat this cycle. So it really helps him stay on the field much, much longer. Next up is Navy Captain Landy. My RNG, you guys know, is absolute dog water. So Navy Captain Landy is the captain of the seas. I'm the captain of dog water here. So yeah, she never counters. I hate using her. She never does anything for me. I'm honestly kind of thinking of just increasing her bulk, making her a lot tankier, so she's a lot more staying power, and using her as kind of an anti-crit buffer for the team, but also as kind of a luck sack unit sometimes, as like a panic button. You know, my opponent drafted a cleave and I can't kill them, I'm gonna panic pick Navy Captain Landy and then hope that she counters. She won't. She won't. But yeah, I might switch over to like an HP percent ring or something, HP percent boot. I want to reach her like 20k health. I think that'd be a really nice healthy place for her to sit at, but it's going to require some tweaking. Or maybe I put her on an effect res build. Maybe, that could be kind of cool, honestly. So we'll see about that. Anyway, moving on, Spirit Eye Celine. This is one of my prized builds right here. 267 speed on really good damage on a lifesteal and penetration set. That's right, guys, you heard that right. She's on Secret Art Storm Sword to help cut her combat readiness and also give her the attack buff, which is kind of nice. When your opponent's trying to open up with like a New Moon Luna, for example, you can cut and you can cleanse here, which is really, really nice. And on top of that, we have her EE here, where the first soul burn you do increases damage dealt by 50% and doesn't cost any souls. So yeah, this is a fantastic way to take extra turns to beat down your opponent, and especially with the attack buff from either her own S1 or from her Secret Art Storm Sword, you get to deal quite a bit of damage and possibly one-shot any low HP to mid-range HP units pretty easily. Okay, next we have Twisted Eidolon Chiron. He's going to be getting a buff. A lot of people are asking me, am I going to switch over to a lifesteal build, a crit build? The answer is no. I think that's all bait, in my opinion. The buffs haven't gone live yet, but I still think a full tank build with 200 resistance, Bastion of Hope here, giving him essentially 270 resist at the start of the batch, and it goes down to like 255, or in my case about 260 resist if they chip him down while he has Bastion of Hope. This is just too strong. Not only is your protection set giving you, I think it's 12% of your max health as a barrier, right? It is, protection set is, I can't see right now, but, oh, here it is. I think I clicked the I. Nope, never mind. Okay, I think it's 12%, but 12% of 25,000 is a lot of HP to your team. So not only are you giving about 3,000 barrier to everybody, but you're giving everyone about a about 11% health increase as well. This is huge. He is essentially massively boosting the bulkiness of my slow zero speed teams. I run him with ML Aria, run him with Bellion, DJB, run him with, you know, all these other like Boss of Runka, BBK, Inheritor Amiki, all these other units that have resist on my side. He makes them even more resistant. So not only are you not affected by debuffs, but your opponent's now on a timer, a ticking time bomb, where you can just go ahead and deal 15,000 damage to your opponent. And after his buffs, he's going to have injury in his kit, he's going to have full debuff cleanse on his kit, so he can cleanse himself when he has a full fighting spirit. He's going to be really strong, and he's going to be able to hit evasion units too, and that's the main thing. So you're no longer afraid of Afternoon Soak Flan, you're no longer afraid of all these random shenanigans out there. You're going to hit them, and then you're going to explode, and they're going to take 15k damage. So highly recommend you build him. Build him as a tank. You won't regret it. I've been using him a lot this season, actually. I think I have at least a dozen matches with him, and he's a really good win rate. 70-80% win rate with him so far. Yeah, no regrets in building him at all. Next up is Wanderer Silk. She is pretty decent as a speed imprint. I don't really speed race anymore right now. I did last season with like Heli and Lua, so she was really useful there. She is on Guiding Light because you don't want to get hit by Zeo. Surprise, surprise. You don't like speed contesters usually. And with Rose here, Silk here, she actually has a S2EE, where you dispel one buff from the enemy using Shock Arrow. Sorry, that's the S3. There you go, S3. Shock Arrow. You dispel immunity, essentially, before inflicting a silence and such, so that's the main reason she has that. Alright, next up is going to be Watcher Shuri, another speed imprint unit. Never really used him. Used him last season, again, Heli and Lua shenanigans, but he's currently on speed and Torrent. He already 100% defense penetrates your opponent, so if you want more damage, Torrent is the only way to go. His build is honestly not great, but I do use him for the speed imprint sometimes, and Sachet is really good. Helps you snowball, kind of like Eligos' artifact, but you have to defeat your opponent before you get the combat readiness push here. And then you also get this EE for 10 speed, and you get Skill Null for a turn. It's really mostly good for Guild Wars and such, where you can bring Watcher Shuri as a light bait. You nuke somebody and the Dark unit comes and attacks Shuri and wastes their turn attacking him. It's not bad. It can buy you a turn sometimes. You can also just increase the hit chance by 50% as well, which is also a really good EE, and I think it's pretty nice if you're trying to fight Afternoon Soak Flan. He already has a 50% chance increase on his S3, so 100% guaranteed hit chance is nice. Lets you nuke those evasion units, but keep in mind, he's squishy. It's going to be hard to pull him off. I think if you build him on Guiding Light and maybe build him a bit faster with a little less damage, you can easily nuke like evasion units without any problems. I might actually try that, honestly. I think the speedy exposed build like this is kind of vulnerable. Maybe Guiding Light would be better on him. Moving on, we got New Moon Luna. Her build hasn't changed from last time. Tagahel's Ancient Book here. We got her on speed. You gotta run her on immunity. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your... you're gonna get debuffed. Even with your skill effect nullifier, you're gonna get debuffed. So keep your immunity there. Skill effect nullifier will eat any ability to strip your buffs, and then you keep the immunity, you're immune to all debuffs still, until they strip your immunity again, and that's going to be kind of hard to do. 285 speed, you don't need effectiveness because she holds her own Tagahel's Ancient Book, so you can soul burn it and ignore resistance. But a little bit of effectiveness goes a long way when your opponent has things like ML Aria or Bellion stopping you from soul burning. Next up, speaking of effectiveness, well, Silverblade Araminta doesn't need to ignore res, because with a plus 30 Abyssal Crown for a 30% chance to stun the opponent, and 206.5% effectiveness, I mean, yeah, you're going to be hitting your opponent and they're going to be stunned, and there's nothing they can do about it. I would like to raise the effectiveness a little bit more. To do that, though, I would probably need to drop her speed. I don't know if I want to drop her speed, though. She typically you want her fast so that she can actually cut. At 250 speed, I still don't cut and take the turn after my first unit goes. So I'm a little conflicted. If I drop her speed, I have to run something like a ML Payra along with her, someone who takes an extra turn, and you can't just run like a Zeo and guarantee Silverblade Araminta goes. I'll have to see. I'll have to do some testing with that, but I really want more effectiveness. You don't need to build attack on her, even though burn scale with attack, because she gets attack based on her effectiveness stat at the start of the match. Alright, next up, Solitaria. Whoa, Azza, what'd you do with your Solitaria? Wasn't it 200 effectiveness? Did you know she was a debuffer? Why the 200 effect resistance? Well, the effect res is here, mostly because I just want to use her in more situations. I want her to not get debuffed immediately. She gets focused down so hard when you try to counterpick her into Afternoon Soak Flan, and the best way to keep her alive is to make her bulkier, drop her speed a little, and make her more resistant, so that she can't get debuffed, she can't get control, she doesn't lose her turns, she can't get defense broken and just perish immediately. Yeah, Solitaria with her barrier that she gives with her S3, plus her own stealth, it's going to be hard to hit her out of that, and you can't really strip any of her buffs. Fairy Tale for a Nightmare allows her to stay stealth and essentially chip away at your opponent for 1900 damage every time she attacks. It's a lot of damage. And with immunity to boot as well, it's going to be really hard to debuff her at the start of the match with like a Silverblade Araminta or something of that sort. We already established that previously with other units. But yeah, I'm really liking this. Ever since I switched her over to this build, she's been doing really well in RTA against Afternoon Soak Flan teams. You can ban protect the Solitaria, she works very nicely, and she still debuffs opponents, right? If they're not running any effect resist on their teams, they're still going to be able to get debuffed. So Afternoon Soak Flan can still get debuffed. Any other units that don't run effect resist are going to get debuffed. Yeah, you're not really going to debuff and stun the knights and such, but they're usually not the main issue there. The main issue is usually the DPS unit. In this case, Afternoon Soak Flan. Alright, next up we have Sylvan Sage Vivian, also a unit Solitaria counters by the way, but Sylvan Sage Vivian relies on focus. She is actually reliant on her attack stat, so I actually dropped her attack stat a little bit. I got some more imprints on her actually for some crit rate. She's on Chatty, she's very similar to Roy Mustang, where you can't take more than half your health as damage, so it's kind of nice. And that's the best in slot artifact if you want to play defensively. I'm playing defensively with Lifesteal, surprise, one of my favorite sets, and Torrent for more damage. But with this build here, you could go Destruction, you could go Speed. I've seen various iterations of Sylvan Sage builds. I like this one just because the Sustain helps her stay alive so much longer. And the fact that she still hits like an absolute truck, even without Destruction set, speaks volumes. You can cleave with her with a Speed build, you can do a crit damage build with this type of Speed and some bulk, just to nuke your opponent whenever you do take a turn. Again, I just prefer Lifesteal, because I like the healing and sustain. My teams are usually pretty bulky, we bring mitigation, we bring a lot of barriers, so it's really nice to see her stay alive and chip away at the opponent. Next up, DJB, the star of the season, guys. Here you go, speed and resist build along with Soul Consolation for extra 30% effect res. So he has 230 effect res right here, and if I take away his self-imprint, if I'm giving 11% HP to the team, he still has over 200 effect res. It's very nice. And yeah, currently running him on 285 speed. He's looking very solid. Could bump him up a little bit in terms of speed, but I lose a bit of bulk, and I'm a little afraid because of that. So that's why I haven't done it yet. Anyway, moving on, we got Dragon King Sharoon. So 233 speed, she got a decent amount of bulk here, 175 effectiveness. That actually gets boosted to almost 200 effectiveness with her artifact Sacred Tree Branch. And I use this because whenever she S3s or S1s, it's an attack skill. So we're increasing combat readiness of herself and the ally with the highest attack by 10% every single time we do. It's wonderful, it's great, that's why I have her on counter build. So the counter build here actually allows her to hit the opponent more, which pushes up combat readiness more, which helps turn cycling, which helps us keep winning. And that's what we like to do around here. Dragon King Sharoon's main boon is not even being good against stun, sleep, and fear. Her main boon for the team is the fact that she can defense break knights and soul weavers with 100% like hit rate, right? 100% chance to debuff. Which is wonderful. Everyone else gets an attack down, which doesn't really matter, but against Knights and Soul Weavers, that decreased defense helps you burst through those Bossarunkas, Fallen Cecilias, Empyrean Ilynavs, and all those other units on the other side, right? Super, super powerful unit, very underutilized. Next up is Infinite Horizon Acades. She's wonderful, I love her. I just been using DJB more than her this season, unfortunately. 300 effect res is what I'm currently rocking. Guardian Ice Crystals pushes that up even more. She's almost 320 effect res, actually. But her best EE is the one that grants stealth to the target for 2 turns when you use your S2. She gains 10 speed from that. Here are her substats here. It's a lot of effect res stacking. You don't need her very fast, honestly, because you don't want her to, you don't want your opponent's Zeo to go and then Acades cuts, and then you can't do anything. You want all your opponent's debuffers to go, you have all these debuffs on your team, and she can cleanse, or your opponents will hold their debuffs, like on New Moon Luna and such very often, and then you get a free Acades turn, so it's pretty good. I prefer her slower, I tried her faster, and it didn't really quite work out the way I wanted. Next up is Bunny Dom. She is actually geared for Guild Wars. You see me use her with Benimaru a lot. The Water's Origins mostly because ML Payros will dual attack into her with Fire Flans, and I don't want her to die from Fire Flan, so that's why I have Water's Origin for some extra healing, and also some combat readiness gains. But we have a speed set and resist set here. 230 speed is usually good enough. Honestly, I don't know how we have this much resist. I would prefer more bulk, but it seems like my gear just decided to roll a bunch of resistance, so Nice. I'll take it. Anyway, Bunny Dom's pretty solid. You can use her against Ahmed. I don't know if this is the ideal Ahmed build. I might re-gear my Bunny Dom just to fight Ahmed's because I'm seeing her so much lately in RTA, but I'll have to get around to that. Not a huge priority right now. Ruel of Light on counter and resist. I'm currently running Celestine for some extra healing. So because I'm on counter, whenever I attack my opponent with a single target attack, I will heal. And she heals quite a bit now after she got her buff. The additional healing they gave to her S1 is really nice. The only problem is she has really long cooldowns for her skills, but 150 resist and this much bulk essentially lets her survive long enough. Honestly, I would like her to be faster. I need to switch her off counter if I want that, but you can run a faster Ruel. It could work. I think I'm still a fan of counter though. It's kind of nice. Alright, moving on, we got Assassin Cartusia. Not a unit I thought I'd be showing here, but hey, he's built, so why not show him off? We have Snow Crystal for some extra evasion pushing up. Now, this gives you 20% crit hit resistance, which is nice. Anytime you don't get crit, including when you dodge an attack, evasion counts as non-crits. You'll push up your combat readiness. At 250 speed, you can potentially push up quite a bit, especially with his own passives here, where you increase combat readiness of yourself by 15% when you successfully evade. So yeah, you'll push up about 20-something, 22% combat readiness, right? Sorry, 27%, 15, 12, 27% combat readiness. And you'll be able to cut. You'll be able to cut your opponent and stun somebody with his S3. It's fantastic. You got extra effectiveness here. And I have his EE on this where you increase everyone's combat readiness by 10% after you successfully dodge too. He pairs really well with Lowolf Pera, and he pairs really well with other evasion units like Remnant Violet, think about New Kid Aiden, those types of things. He's just too much of a gamble. You kind of don't want to gamble too much with him. A full evasion team is still going to lose to RNG, right? So you can still lose to RNG, so you want other units usually on your side. But speed of hit set, I use him sometimes in Guild Wars. If you self-imprint him, he's going to be almost a 160 something effectiveness, so he can easily debuff whoever he wants to, right? And his gears, honestly, I clicked the equip all button and it gave me this. It looks good. I'll keep it. It's good enough for now. Next up is Dark Corvus. Dark Corvus here is actually currently running Sweet Miracle. I should be running him on Alencia's Prayer of Solitude, the one that she's currently holding, but Prayer of Solitude would help me increase the damage that's dealt. This Dark Corvus in combat, by the way, is about 40,000 HP. That's right, because you get 7.5% of this 36,000 HP added on to him. He's almost 40k health. 40k health Dark Corvus here is insane. If you use him with Aram in Guild Wars and such, he's essentially nuking everyone with soul burns. You can run Aram with one of those Soul Weaver soul artifacts, and yeah, Spot a Mouse, Hair Tie-In, like those types of things, Bird's Eye View. Dark Corvus is gonna slap. Slap so hard that he inflicts extinction as well. So you don't have to worry about Morts reviving, you don't have to worry about Holy Sacrifice, you don't have to worry about Spirit Eye Celine shenanigans, so many things you don't have to worry about anymore, no Ruels, none of that stuff. Dark Corvus is really cool. Wish I can use him more in RTA, used to be able to, but current meta, not so much. Alright, next up, Designer Lilibet. Currently really like her build, honestly, just don't use her enough. I should try to use her more. Golden Rose is pretty nice, she's pretty good into really high debuff teams, really frequent debuff teams, Silverblade Arminthas and such. You just gotta keep in mind, she gets reset, so normally if people are bringing Silverblade Armintha, it's very common to see Requiem Rowana on the team, right? It's common to see these fast units that reset your skills and increase skill cooldowns, and when they do that, Designer Lilibet cannot cleanse the teammates. She also doesn't really work too well against Light Tenebria, but what Cleanser does, right? She'll be able to cleanse herself, just not her teammates. But I really like the amount of damage she can output with these stats, and she's relatively bulky too. Next up, Disciplinary Prefect Aria. Really like her. I actually did make a change, switched her over to Durandal. That's right, Durandal here for some extra combat readiness pushes. I think it's going to be well worth it, way better than Prayer of Solitude. I do want more HP on her. Unfortunately, I just can't squeeze more HP out of this build right now. Already, like, you know, chest piece already has like 40% and stuff, right? Could probably go for like a necklace, but I'm sacrificing way too much damage at that point. But anyway, she's really good. I like her. Gives so much effect res to the team, and she gives a lot of effect res to herself, right? 70 effect res for every 10k health that she has. So this Aria is almost like a 300 effect res build. Very nice, very solid. Love it. And I want to see her do well with Durandal. Swapped it just recently, but Prayer of Solitude is what I was using prior to this. Next up is Infernal Kawazu. I don't use him for anything, but he's geared, so I might as well show him to you guys in case some of you guys want to build him. He's on Indestructible Gators, but he's honestly probably better on Teyu's artifact. So the artifact, we'll show you later. It's on Lone Wolf Para right now, but yeah, it's decent. You grant immunity to yourself for 2 turns with this EE right here, and he's currently on speed immunity. You can see his damage numbers on the right. You want to build him with some bulk, 200 speed, and about 4,500 attack. 4,000 attack is good enough, but the more burns you can get, the better. I think he does get a slight buff, so that he ignores res on his S1 burns too. So now you can S1 soul burn and then go into an S3, and I think they're changing his EE as well to give, one of them gives an extra burn, which is super cool. Getting that extra burn is really, really nice so that you can detonate and essentially nuke your opponent. You're ignoring res, applying burns, and you're detonating your burns, right? He's gonna deal a ton of damage. Right, next up is Lone Crescent Bellona. Currently have her on a Sigurd Scythe. I stole her boot, so keep in mind that's a 85 boot. It's not really meant to be her boot. She doesn't use crit rate at all. But this is what her build currently looks like. It's unfortunate, but yeah. Typically she'll have a better boot. She was probably sitting around like 150 something speed, 3,800 attack, max crit damage, and the bulk is about the same, so not missing out much there. But I will be looking for replacements for her gear. Some people are starting to pick up things like Navy Captain Landy as kind of pocket picks and cheese unit stuff, so if I can rebuild her to be better, I think I can fight those teams with a bit more confidence. Lone Wolf Para is about 300 speed. We got 80 effectiveness on her. Some people are running her on Ubir's Tooth, but we're running her on Spirit Purification. So this is also one that's good on Infernal Kawazu. Increases attack, and if your opponent uses a non-attack skill, you push up your combat readiness. You can run her on Sweet Miracle, really good on that too. And again, like I mentioned, if you run some attack on her, she actually becomes a really strong Ubir's Tooth user, and it's kind of scary. But Lone Wolf Para got her on decent defense actually, because that flat defense necklace and her flat HP ring. But the defense on the necklace is great. With evasion, with high defense units, it's actually really hard to chip her down. So with this effectiveness, we can potentially defense break our opponent. We can survive long enough to keep turn cycling around them, and hopefully she's providing enough combat readiness to your team so you can finish off your opponents before they finish you off. Right, that's essentially her whole purpose here. I don't run her very often, but when I do, she's just the first pick to get some momentum going on your team. The team that controls combat readiness well throughout a fight is usually the team that wins. That's why she's a very popular pick this season. Mediator Cowrick, gonna get an EE, which we don't have yet, but once he does, I might switch his build up a little bit here. He's currently on Warhorn for extra attack for everybody and some combat readiness, but Destruction and Penetration is very solid right now. When he gets his EE, he can't crit on his S2 anymore. In exchange for that, you get 10 base speed, just 10 speed added onto his stats, and he'll penetrate defense with his S2 by 50%, and he'll increase damage dealt by quite a bit. Now, I'm a little concerned, again, because I want a crit build, but if the damage is good enough, I'll switch him over back to like a supportive 250 speed build or something like that with a bunch of HP. Might run him on like Torrent set or something like that too. We'll see. I think he'd be a pretty good bruiser that doesn't rely on crit rate. Could be nice. Could be good for like Afternoon Soak Flan and evasion teams too. Next up, Straze. Straze here is going to be on Benimaru's Tachi for the 100% chance to get the increased attack for a turn on his turn, and I'm also on this one where if his normal EE, right? But if you defeat an opponent with his S3, you grant an additional turn, which is very nice. You extend your invincibility by a turn too. Now, what you get here is a speed torrent build. Really high damage, 257 speed, want him to go as soon as possible, nuke down the opponent, right? I don't have Ahmed, I have Ahmed, I don't have her built, but so I don't have access to that synergy there, but using Straze with Aram should be illegal. The fact that you can S3, S2 with Straze and then push him up and S3 and S2 again, there's no way that anybody on any planet is going to be alive after he does that quad combo there. So is, quite frankly, disgusting, but also feels good. Next up, Urban Shadow Choux. Almost 290 speed on my Choux here. We're on Proof of Valor for some damage mitigation, and we're currently on her EE. Her EE is all the same. There's no options for her EE, but it gives her an extra 9 speed, which is making this build possible. We're on speed and 2 offset pieces that just randomly have some speed and crit rate, which is kind of nice. She does not need crit damage on this build. You just run her really fast, you turn cycle around. It's the opposite of Valencia. Valencia, I'm trying to go for a single target, just focus one unit down, injury them fully, and then nuke them. Urban Shadow Choux is let's injury down, and we're still focusing down 1 or 2 units at a time, but we're focusing everybody's injury. We're collectively inflicting injury with her splash damage, and she's going to be able to burst them down in quick succession. If they let her go uncontested. But the fact that she can stealth herself now with her EE, the fact that she's so fast with this build, essentially makes her untouchable. And into the right teams, it's an easy win. Abyssal Euphine is the next unit here. The meta version of her is actually running Aureus, but I'm currently running Elber's Ritual Sword because I love not countering, and Lifesteal is my favorite set. Did I mention that already in this video? Quite a few times? Interesting. Anyway, she's running some pretty good equipment actually. 170 speed on 260 crit damage, 2000 defense is the only thing that's really mandatory here, I'd say. Get that 2000 defense. Some people have 16k, I've seen up to 2000 health. You can drop her attack. Some people are trying to go for like 2000 attack. I know I was in the past, because you double it when you go into your trauma mode. But she does enough damage in trauma. You just want her to stay alive. Most of the time she doesn't live till she gets trauma buff for me. So yeah, the attack stat I dropped for some more bulk here. She works okay. Her passive is fantastic into Ahmed teams, cutting combat readiness gains by 50%. You can pair her with Fire Politis as well to stop your opponent's combat readiness gains, period. Next up is Fallen Cecilia, another amazing unit for my teams here. So 30k health, right? 237 speed. I like her faster. Keep in mind, I'm running her with DJB a lot. When DJB at 285 goes and he S3s and pushes up my team, typically Fallen Cecilia comes next and we could throw out an S3 to get skill nullifier up, or we take the turn and we provoke somebody. Usually a pretty decent combo here. Really like it. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Put on Aureus though, you'd want her to mitigate damage as much as possible. She also increases defense of everyone with this, which is kinda nice, let's be honest. Okay, next up, Arbiter Vildred. Did use him a couple times this season. Really funny results, because this is a Degen RB. Counter, immunity, RB. Not this triple torrent shenanigans for the Rinnock stuff. I don't do that. I ban Rinnock all the time in RTA. But we're running RB here for some big damage. We have a Moonlight Dreamblade for the evasion and the attack buff. It's gonna be so good. Counter buff here, counter set, sorry, with the immunity set. Oh, makes him so untouchable. So fun. And the Moonlight Dreamblade stacks with his Archdemon's passive, the Archdemon's Eye here. So he gains evasion by 50%, plus Moonlight Dreamblade's 20%. He becomes a full evasion unit, 70% evasion with this amount of bulk on counter. You're trying to kill him, you don't want him to S3 you. It's gonna happen. He's gonna counter. You're gonna get hit. It's gonna suck. And RB's gonna RB, right? Cool stuff. You know who else is gonna just kill you? That's right, BBK. BBK, so fun on, finally could make a counter resist BBK. She's on Hostess of the Banquet, which increases effect res by 30%, and when you attack, you increase your damage dealt by extra amounts, and when the target's health is 50% or more, you increase damage by an additional amount. It's so good. We have her on her additional immortality, so she starts the match with immortality, but when she takes lethal damage, you'll proc another immortality. 2 turns of immortality is what makes her so meta. Without this EE, she'd be kind of garbage, I'll be honest. But running her on counter set, running her on torrent set, yeah, it's gonna just make her damage pop, and she's gonna hit like a truck. Even though my damage numbers aren't that impressive, you guys have seen her in gameplay, she is still gonna nuke everything, and this resistance, plus the 30% from the Host of the Banquet, yeah, you're looking at 205, 204, 205 resistance, plus I can resist stack on the team, plus I have imprints, I have Emma Aria, Bastion of Hope, stuff like that. She's gonna be pretty safe. Just watch out for Veronicas. Don't try to fight those. Anyway, next up, we have Closer Charles. Not a unit that I've really been using. I really want to re-gear him, though, maybe to, like, Destruction or something cool. I think he's good enough to use in his current state. I just haven't tried yet. I might do it preseason, because why not? But Double-Edged Crescent is currently the only evasion artifact I have available for him. Shepherd of the Hollow is ideal, but hey, this is, I guess, not bad, right? He does start the match with, I think, evasion buff nowadays. Yeah, increase evasion for 1 turn at the start of the match, and then when you S3, you increase evasion for 3 turns. So it's kind of cool. I think this is nice. Double-Edged Crescent could be okay for like a lifesteal build. Maybe I'll try that as like a bruisery closer Charles that can clean up after people. I think that's kind of cool. I might give that a shot. That sounds so fun, actually, now that I say it out loud. Anyway, you know what else is super fun? New kid Aiden. That's right, we got a new kid on the block here. We got Destruction set, we got Penetration set. Shepherd of the Hollow went to her from the closer Charles because I wasn't really using him. And she's rocking a bunch of damage, quite a bit of bulk. 160, 170 speed is all you need on her. Some people drop down to 140, 150 speed. And because you get combat readiness from her Vigor buff. I'm running her EE here, which gives you increased your health. You absorb some damage as health whenever you S1. It's like lifesteal. You seeing a pattern here, guys? I really like lifesteal. I just do. Lifesteal is such a fun set. It's so cool. Anyway, you run on Destruction, though, for more damage so that you can get more lifesteal from the damage that you do with your S1. Anyway, with that said, let's move on to... Oh, sorry, she's really good against tanks and bruisers, HP scaler units, really strong injury unit. You can pair her up with like ML Choux and DDRs and other things for more injury. It's kind of nice. Next up is Briarwitch Iseria. So Briarwitch is a unit I actually think I need to re-gear now because a lot of people are running speedy Briarwitch with high effectiveness, or they're running slower Briarwitch with super high effectiveness. Not many people are running damage Briarwitches anymore, so maybe I'll do like one Briarwitch on a counter build, on a slow counter build type of thing on damage, and maybe I'll do a fast one, a fast Briarwitch on something fun. I think a bunch of Immortality units on counter, like imagine BBK, Amiki, Jenua, and like Briarwitch all just sitting there with Immortality, all with a bunch of effect res, you can't strip any of them. And then they're just countering you as you die, as you hit the... Oh, that'd be so much fun. Maybe we'll try that. We'll see. Oh, by the way, she's on her EE here. Extra speed, increased defense break chance. It's kind of what she does, right? Guiding light, so you can't get hit by those Zeos and such. These are her stats. I think I showed it just a little bit earlier. But yeah, almost 250 speed, 100 effectiveness. This is a good generic build if you want some damage, if you want some debuffs, if you want to be able to go before your DPSs, your main DPSs go. This is a decent all-around build. Okay, but next we got Hellion Lua. That's right, Cringe Lua is here with 30 plus 30 guiding light, and she is actually doing pretty good on this this build here. I'd say I haven't really used her all too much on this, but I did try to bring her a little bit in like Draft Arena, not Draft Arena, the World Championship thing, I think, the preliminaries. I think she's a really good pick if your opponents are lacking other openers. If your opponent's playing pretty slow, you can use Hellion Lua, and you can Soul Burn and ignore res and stuff with her. I tried to bump up her effectiveness here. She's not as bulky as she used to be. She's not as fast as she used to be. She used to be like 307, 306 speed when I used her in the previous metas. But right now, because I have so many other units I want to prioritize speed on, Hellion Lua would actually do better at going after cleansers. You're going to go after the Lone Wolf Payras, right? Going after the Infinite Horizon Acades. You bait out the Acades to go, and then you can go with Hellion Lua, provoke everybody. It's really, really nice. So, really like this build. Needs a bit more testing though, so we'll get around to it when we do, when we get some time during preseason. Alright, Pirate Captain Flan. Again, I said that this is really similar to my Summertime Iseria. It's basically identical, but a little bit less effectiveness, but yeah. She gives, I think she does self-imprint, so... Oh no, she self-imprints an attack. That's why I don't self-imprint her. It's better to give HP to the rest of your team. That's almost 13% HP to your front line, to 2 front units, right? Super strong here, and as long as you can keep your team alive, they can keep her alive, and you're just debuffing your opponents. Starve the Deep Sea for some extra bombs. You know, you have to be running this artifact on her. If you don't have this artifact, you really can't run her at her full potential, because when she'll detonate bomb effects with her S1, but she doesn't plant bombs, except with her S3. The key to this is you'll S1, you'll plant a bomb with the Star of the Deep Sea, and then you detonate immediately, right? So this is a great way for her to essentially become a one-man army, one-man control team. Super strong, but not as strong as, let's say, Silverblade Araminta, in my opinion. So, she's still lacking in some ways. I really wish she got her full buff, but people thought that she was getting nerfed instead, even though she was getting a really strong buff. Now she's just a slightly better, slight side grade to a Summertime Iseria, is the best way to put it. Next up, Phantom Byblis. Yeah, this is such a good unit, guys. I've been using her to climb a bit too near the end of the season with Jenua. This is before I switched Jenua over to a resist build, but that's kind of what inspired me. I'll pick Phantom Byblis and they'll pick Celine, and Celine hits Jenua every single time and stuns him. So swap Jenua to effect res. Now we got Byblis on almost 300 speed. Good amount of effectiveness. I know we have some wasted stats on like effect res, but not really much I can do about that. It's okay though. It's all good. Anyway, she does her stuff. I have on Spatial Temporal Fan to stealth the highest attack unit. It's not a 100% chance, but it does increase my effectiveness by a little bit, so I do appreciate that. You can run her on Flan's artifact for souls. You can run her on various different things, but Spatial Temporal Fan is an artifact I really wanted for a long time, and I got it from the artifact selector, so now we're using it. Archdemon Shadow. So this is a 270 speed Archdemon. I just pulled a random Archdemon, I think from our dark, random 5-star dark ticket from the 100 Pulls event that went on not too long ago. So I might build a counter Archdemon as well. This is a speed hit set Archdemon. We're giving 13% HP imprint to the team. It's so nice. The imprints matter so much if you're playing slow and bulky. This Archdemon's not playing slow, but it's playing pretty bulky. We got some effectiveness to land our seals if we need it, but you can still soul burn with her own souls here from her book to inflict seal and then dual attack, right? Your EE here allows you to dual attack with the highest attack ally, which makes a lot of units a lot more consistent in terms of their damage output. But yeah, her gear's on the right side there. You can take a look at that. But Archdemon, pretty solid, especially into like Bossarukas and stuff. If you can seal Bossarukas, if you can seal Empyrean Ilynavs, oh, that's game over for them. Okay, next up, Harsetti. Harsetti is a unit I re-geared. She used to be on injury. I really don't like Harsetti as a unit, but I still have her built because sometimes I'll have to bring her out if needed. She is on a bit of effectiveness, and she's pretty decently tanky here with some damage. Put on Destruction Set, because I wanted some damage. I wanted some damage output, and the reason she has some effectiveness is because Abyssal Crown, still too good to pass up. Threw that onto her, so now she can be there and do Harsetti things, which I almost never do in RTA. Next up, new build, by the way. I built this last night. I was just sitting around bored at my computer, and I tried to copy a Cougar Bats build. I don't know what his build actually looks like, but I know he's on counter set, so I went for a counter Requiem Rowana on 300 effectiveness. So we did it, guys. We got 300 effectiveness. We got rid of the double immunity set that was on her. It's fantastic. Target Hell's Ancient Book for some extra souls, because why not? You can bring some utility for your team. It's very straightforward. Why is she on counter set? Because I think it'd be funny if they hit her and she countered and they died, but you know, that's just me. Even with 300 effectiveness, I took her into arena, tested her out in like 5 different matches, and she got 15%ed in like 2 of them. So keep in mind, this doesn't stop you from getting 15%ed, because that's fun. Thanks, Smilegate. Moving on, we got Spectre Tenebria. Haven't changed her build in a while. I do really still like her stats in the build though, so I haven't changed it. Target Hell's Ancient Book for some souls to soul burn, and obviously her EE that gives you extra attack and defense after you attack is not bad. It's why I have a lot more defense than HP here. It's just that she's so outclassed by so many things. It's just, yeah, why build Spectre Tenebria when you can build Bossarunka and everyone behind you becomes Spectre Tenebria and can't get hit, right? It's so good. It's so easy. But these are her stats. She requires a lot of good gear if you're trying to run her on a lifesteal set. Just keep that in mind. It's kind of difficult. Anyway, moving on, we got Zeo. We're almost done here, guys. We got Zeo, 260 speed, nothing's changed about him, 70 effectiveness. If I had a second Zeo, I might build 1 full damage and 1 like full effectiveness. That would be kind of cool. If he's self-imprinted with effectiveness, he'd be almost 100 effectiveness, right? Look at that, 97% right there. So currently on speed send, 2 offset pieces. You just want a decent amount of bulk, some good damage, and enough effectiveness to debuff your opponent. If you're running Aram, he gets an effectiveness buff at the start, 150 effectiveness. If you're running him on Bloody Rose instead of Target Hell's Ancient Book, if you run him on this, you get another 60% effectiveness. So you can essentially change this DPS-y all-arounder Zeo with Aram on his side into like a 210 effectiveness Zeo. It's kind of crazy, actually, how easily versatile he can change up his role in a team. Alright, next up, Blood Moon Haste. Nothing's changed about him. He's really bulky. I wish I could cut defense for more health, but it's kind of just how it is right now. Celestine for some extra healing. He's on counter, just like Ruel. He has a little bit less resistance than Ruel, but he also has a lot more bulk because his S3 relies on his HP to scale for damage. So we got his counter set here for some healing with Celestine, and his extra attack obviously heals a bunch too. HP set to bring up the bulk stats even more. And yeah, that's in general just a Blood Moon Haste. Nothing else that's special about him, unfortunately. Next up, DDR. Blood Moon Haste, honestly, I don't really have much use for him either right now. Brought him to some games. Did okay, but usually Dragon Bride, Sennia, and Spirit Eye Celine are good partners for him. That's about all I can say about him here. DDR is the last unit that we have, and he is going to be on Guardian Ice Crystals for some extra resistance and some extra healing for the team. He is pretty decently bulky, with 1700 defense, almost 2000 HP, 235 speed, and a good mix of effectiveness and effect resistance. I know some people go more into effectiveness stats. I like him with a bit of effectiveness and effect res right now, just because I'm building so many effect res support units that DDR fits right in. He allows me to still debuff my opponents, while still maintaining the fact that I can't get debuffed, right? With Guardian Ice Crystals, he has 100 effect res, so paired with Emma Aria, paired with a Bastion of Hope, paired with, you know, all these other effect res imprints and stuff, he can be easily up to like 150, you know, depending on if I have Aria and stuff on the team, it can be up to like 260, 270 effect res, depending on who's there. But yeah, honestly, not bad. I like him. Haven't really been using him all too much. He usually gets banned if I pick him last, and that's pretty much the only place you really want to pick him, is pick him last, because otherwise you're probably going to be met with Schneel or Dilibet or some other really hard counters to him. But that's it, guys. That is gonna be this entire roster of my units. This video took, I mean, for you guys, it's an hour and 45 minutes long, right? It took an hour and 45 minutes of straight talking to you guys. So please, I would really appreciate it if you guys can help support the channel and hit that like button. And of course, subscribe for more Epic 7 content, because we got a lot more RTA content for you guys, a lot more units I'm going to be building, and we have so much stuff to test out when the buffs go live next week. With that being said, thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.